Greetings and welcome to Hot Topics from the Soul. I'm your host, Dr. Valerie Parker Hagan, and I'm so delighted to be here with you. I'm excited about my special guest. He is a communication specialist, a speaker, and an author. I want to introduce you to Michael Fineman. Michael, how are you?
I'm doing so good, my friend. How are you today?
I am absolutely wonderful. Every day above ground is a good day when I have my right mind, the activity of my limbs. God has been better than good.
Amen. Thank you for having me with you today.
I'm so excited about you. You've written two books, and we're going to talk about one, and then I'm going to have you back again, and we'll talk about another one. But I am so excited about this book that you have. But before we get to that, I introduce you as a communication strategist. What is that? What does that look like to people that might be listening?
I think, many people communicate, but not everyone connects. And it's something I learned a long time ago. John Maxwell talks about it. Les Brown talks about it. And, so many other people that I really admire talk about connection. And when you communicate to connect, it's a different type of communication. You're no longer talking to people, you're talking with people. And
Mm.
that can happen at any level and from any place. You can be on platform, you can be in front of them, you can be in a small group, you can be in front of your church or in a boardroom. It doesn't matter, because if you're communicating to connect, people lean in. They want to communicate with you. And I think learning to do that is what really created the strategist part.
One of the things I liked about you and admired when we first met was that you were a single father and that you of course raising your son, and you had this desire to talk to men about fatherhood. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I have a ministry called the Fatherhood Code, and I've been afforded the opportunity to speak with men, large groups of men on many occasions. Fatherhood is not an option. When you plant your seed as a man, you have taken on a responsibility to stay with that child for the rest of their lives and guide them. And I think it's so important to be intentional with every moment that you spend with your child. My son turned 19 today, and I took him to the basketball court early this morning because I knew that was something he would love to do with me. And so we went together, and he actually at 19, driving me home, thanked me for
Oh, he
being
dunked on you,
intentional.
huh?
No, he didn't dunk on me today. Thank God. He's healing from an injury, so I got lucky, but he ran me till I couldn't move. Yeah, he did that.
Wow,
He
that's
thanked me at
amazing.
19 for being intentional in his life, and that he can see now the benefits of that.
That is wonderful because, a lot of times, relationship doesn't work out between the woman and the man. And then you have a choice and a decision that can make, and a lot of people don't make the decision as it relates to the child. They make a decision based on their economical status or their wanting to be free and not have the responsibilities. And it's just, sometimes it's just better if the father who wants to be 100% present is in the child's life, if he is a boy child versus a girl child. So there is a difference in that. And what do you think the difference would have been if you had a girl?
So I've had stepdaughters, so I've experienced that. And all children need the approval of their father. They all need it. And if they don't get it, their behaviors manifest in different ways when they act out because they can't communicate what the problem is. But I think in society today, we see the same amount of problems with boys and girls that didn't have a solid father in the home. Their behaviors are just different. You know, it's easier for me to relate to him because he's a boy, for sure, because I understand how to instill, integrity, character, all of these things that a man should have into him. And I know when to be hard on him and when not to
Mhm.
be. With girls, with men, it's so much harder for dads with girls because we can't really get tough on them. They don't respond to that, and it's not what they need. And then we have to shift gears and just be very nurturing and loving. And that's not always our nature. So, it's a lot harder.
Yeah, I know with my dad, it was I mean, he was my hero. Whatever dad said, that was it. I he was my God.
Yeah,
Dad
yeah,
could do no wrong. And when he would have to chastise it, it just broke my heart. It was like, because I was no longer that shining star. But then he came right back around and said, little girl, because I mean, I'm 66 and he still calls me little girl. And I'm
love
so
that.
blessed to still have my father. And
Yeah,
he says, little girl, this is why I did this, and this is how it's going to benefit you later. And I must say that when times got so rough and so hard for me, I remembered my father's word. My father was my first motivational speaker. He
yes.
said, little girl, you can do anything and be anything you want to be. And
And
I'm
you
so
believed him.
grateful and thankful for that.
Thank God you believed him.
Yes, I believed that when times got hard,
Yeah,
of course, I had my alignment with God the Father, but to have that natural father, earthly father, be able to speak into you and, in night of flame at your weakest moments, where I feel that's what you did with your son in raising him, that when there were weak points in his life, he remembers your word. The Bible also talks about, you know, I was young, now old, and
yes.
then I've never seen the righteous seen forsaken or beg bread. And then it also talks about being young and old, and um, you remembering the teachings that you receive so that you won't depart from them. You'll have aha moments in your life, because sometimes, I think some of us are abducted by aliens, if you be. We can't put on a whole new characteristic, and we disappear for a while, and then we have an aha moment, and we come
Hmm.
back to ourselves, and we like, where was I? Why did I check out mentally and
Yeah,
take this path? This is not where I was. This is not who I am. And then we come back to ourselves and remember the teachings.
it's true. And my son, we were on track for college basketball. That was the plan. He was on 3 teams a year. We lived at the gym. Not being married had the advantage that I could be there with him for all of that. But when he lost basketball, when he got injured, he took a little bit of a left turn. And that was my prayer. I trained him up the right way, Lord. You said he won't depart from it. And when he circled back, he started making underground Christian rap, and he got so deep into the word. And now he's leading hundreds of kids on a Discord in Bible studies, and,
Wow.
and he didn't just come back, he really came back. And I'm so proud of him now. And as leadership qualities are starting to emerge, but his humility is so amazing because it doesn't get to his head. He always knows, yeah, but I took a left and I could have ended up down that road. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't. And I'm so grateful to God and for you, Dad, for those words, like you said, that you spoke into my head, that are always ringing true when things get tough. And it brought
Mm-hmm.
him back. And so that's biblical wisdom, train them up in a child in the way they should go, and they will never depart from it. But they do take a
Absolutely.
left sometimes.
Yeah. 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 We check out sometime.
Yeah.
Guilty.
Pastors' kids are the most. You see it all the time. So many pastors' kids, just walk away from the faith completely, but when they come back, they're on fire, and they come back. That's the
Mm-hmm.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's about personal relationship, and I think that's what you provided as a single parent, is that
Yeah.
personal hands-on relationship, which is so very much important and needed, especially this dispensation that we're living in right now, where um, the world has taken over our children by computers and
Yeah.
games and videos and television. It's all just like derailed um, natural thinking,
It
if
has.
you
Look
will.
at their
It has just
anxiety.
really derailed all that. But, I wanted people to get a glimpse of who Michael Fineman is. But let's talk about this book, The
Yes.
Man with the Wooden Mouth. Let's talk about that. Why did you write it, and what does this book actually mean to you?
So years ago, there was a book that was kind of went around the world called "Who Moved My Cheese," and it was Dr. Spencer, I think was his last name. I can't remember for sure, but the book really impacted me, and it was a very short, metaphorical read. And I've always wanted to write a book like that, and I ended up writing two in a row. But the man with the wooden mouth talks about communicating from your authentic self, and not just from your authentic self. What we call confidence, stage confidence, right, in the speaking world, is not really confidence. It's a mask. It's who we think we're supposed to be when we're on stage. And the
Mm,
truth is, we're supposed to be ourselves. People will follow us if we're ourselves. But wearing the mask, we may entertain them, we may share a message, but it's not the same. People relate to authenticity. And going back to what you just said, Dr. Val, about all of the social media and all the reels and all the things, they're fake. They're not even real anymore. So people are craving something real, something authentic. And the only way to get to this place, I believe, in communicating from a place of authenticity is knowing who you are,
mm.
knowing your identity, really knowing your identity. And the book speaks to that in a great way. And I think that the way the storyline is laid out, it's relatable to everyone.
Absolutely. So, when you say it's relatable to everyone, what does that look like?
So I think we've all struggled with wearing that mask. I think all of us have struggled with our authenticity, understanding who we are, but then actually operating from that place because we think we're supposed to be a certain thing or act a certain way. If you work really hard and you work way up to CEO, you're supposed to have that CEO level, presence when you speak, when you meet, all of those things. And some of that is true. But if you were able to also speak from your heart, really speak from who you are, people will lean in a way that never can happen when you're wearing the mask. Because even if you're doing a great job of putting on that show with the mask, innately, deeply in their heart, they know you're not exposing yours. And you can't expect others to share their heart with you if you're not first willing to expose yours.
But that's so hard in this dispensation we're living in because, people feel that if they show the authentic self that people won't like them, so they become chameleons.
Yeah.
And, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of energy to not live authentically. But people fear that if people are exposed to who they really are, their most intimate parts, that they will no longer be popular. They will no longer be likable.
Yeah. And I would say to those people, try it once and see what happens,
Hmm.
because I think they'd be surprised. But again, it all comes down to identity, right? I want everyone to be my friend. I hope everyone likes me, but I don't need them to. I don't need them to because I know who I am. I know who my maker is, and he's proud of me. And I maintain that place. But even if you had a great dad, like we were talking about, that approves of who you are, it doesn't mean that the world wouldn't approve of who you are also, even if you didn't have that father that approved of you. Finding your identity, finding a way to find approval from your higher source puts you in a place of believing in yourself to where it doesn't really matter if other people believe in you or not. And that's
Hmm.
the work. And I think honestly, it is work, but I think it's less work than, like you said, trying to carry that mask around. Those things are heavy. Masks are heavy and you need it all the time. What if you forget it and you don't bring it with you and you have a meeting? Like, it's metaphorical, but the truth is, if you are always wearing the mask, it's exhausting
It
because you're
is.
not
It
being
it
yourself.
really is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And
we often talk about peer pressure
yeah.
where it's young adults and yeah, but that wanting to be liked starts from the moment you start interacting with other people. Like
Sure it does.
pre-K, going to school, you start interacting with kids. So that's when it all starts. It all begins. These cliques, these bullyings, all this goes
Yeah.
on, and then it travels with them to through adulthood. So do you find that it is harder to break through when they're adults more so than children? Because you live your whole life to be a certain age, and you're grown now, and then you find yourself not knowing who you are
Yeah. Yeah. I
because
think it's,
you've lived this life as a chameleon, so you lose yourself, and that's where I think a lot of frustration comes with adults.
I agree. I think it's worth this is something you and I have talked about because you're so deep into psychology. This is something that is a necessary work
Mm,
because if you never find your true self, you'll never emerge as who you were meant to be. You'll hide.
mm,
And no matter what level of success you think you've achieved, your authentic self could 10x that in a second. And because you didn't get there because of your technical knowledge, that might have helped a lot. But your personality creeps in a little bit here and there, whether you want it to or not.
mm-hmm,
Right. And I think being intentional about really, really getting to that place is when you start living life. When you find that place, that's when you start living life. And interesting, I've watched this with my son. My son was so bent on people liking him that he got bullied because it
mm.
mattered to him so much that he would do anything to get people to like him. And that doesn't work. It actually backfires,
But
makes you.
wait a minute, what do you mean he wanted people to like him so much that he got bullied?
He did. So it
Explain that
creates,
scenario.
yeah, especially in sports, it creates a pack mentality. So when you have one child that is just starving for people to like them, really wants their approval, really wants to impress them, they act kind of silly. They act out. They'll do things to try to get attention. Well, after a while, the other kids are like, they don't really verbalize it, but they realize this kid is like just too easy. There's no barriers for this child. They'll do anything to get you to like them. And after a
Wow.
while, they don't like them. And then it becomes a little bit annoying. And then all of the kids kind of come in together. And we experienced that several times over his basketball career, over his life, until he really got to a place of authenticity. And it's funny because I didn't know that I was training him in that way. It's just the way I had to learn. So I trained him to do the same, but I had front row seats to watch this happen with him. And here he is now, like I said, leading hundreds of kids on Discord, just being himself, just being willing to be himself and not he doesn't care about being liked. He's out to serve. And do you remember John Daly? He was at a few of the events
Hmm.
with Les. I think was it John Daly, the TEDx guy.
He was out of Canada.
Yeah, it was John Daly or John Barnes. Now I feel so bad. I can't remember his
He
name.
was out of Canada.
Okay, yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Is the one I'm thinking. If
Yeah.
we're talking about the same person, I believe he was in Canada.
Yeah. And he was at one of the events one day, and I was emceeing that event. I was trying to calm some of the new speakers down, some of Les's trainees, and just, they were very nervous as normal. And I was, just very calmly talking with them. And John came up and he said something so powerful. It was John Bates. Sorry, John Bates. And he came up and he said, "Hey, I have a mantra for you to say." And he said it to one of the young people. He said, "No time for nerves. I'm here to serve." And when he said
Mm,
that, I was like, "Oh, dude, I am taking that." And I used it with every speaker that night, but ever since I've used it, and I've used it with my son, and I've trained him in that. So again, when you switch from focused on yourself to focused on others, your personality comes out. Your
mm,
authenticity comes out because you're no longer wearing a mask. You're no longer trying to impress. You're trying to serve, and you can't serve from any other place than from your heart. Right. And now for men, that's hard. A lot of men that have been taught to shut their emotions off, shut it down. Like, don't show anything. Don't show weakness. Love is weakness. It's not true. Love is strength. If you're willing to show love, lead with love in this world as a man, that's one of the strongest men there are because I'm not seeking approval, right? As a man, I'm not seeking approval. I literally lead with love. I taught my son to lead with love. And because I don't need the approval, if I needed the approval, I'd probably shrink back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, what will people get from this book here? The Man with the Wooden Mouth. What are the expectations?
So this book, I think, will stir people emotionally. And I designed it that way on purpose. I wrote it that way to really capture you emotionally. And this book does that metaphorically. Again, I call it a whimsical parable, and that's what it is. And it's a great story that will really capture your emotions and then cause you to think. And I really wanted to create something that hits deep, makes you think, and gives you permission to make a shift and even encourages you to make a shift.
Hmm. Yeah, unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of individuals that will make a shift and then they'll find out that their shift will cause people in their lives to shave away because they're not going in the same direction anymore. And you know what? That's all good
It is.
because then you're living authentically and you will be happy. So they can find your book how, Michael? This is your website, michaelfineman.com. And
Mm-hmm.
what other ways can they be able to purchase your book and also know more about who you are?
Yeah. So my book is for sale actually on Mike F, as in Feynman, MikeF360.com. So
Okay,
at Mike
MikeF360.com.
Mm-hmm. And that's where you find the
Awesome.
book. You'll find some of my other things that I do as well there. And you can connect with me there as well.
Oh, that is so awesome. And also, if any of you are interested in booking Michael for any special events or training sessions or even coaching, you can reach out to me at arisebyvnp at hotmail.com. And you can also check my website for speakers, arisebyvnp.com. But please visit Michael's website so that you can learn more about who he is and follow him on his social media platforms. Michael, has been such a pleasure speaking with you, and I'm so excited. We're going to come back again and also talk about your next book. So I can't wait for that as well. So until then, next time, Michael, bye bye.
Thank you, my friend. Bye bye.